Alright, I choose Braindead, also known as Dead Alive, to start my reviews because it's a movie that I've watched many times with my childhood buddies. It's now become impossible not to be biased when dealing with this masterpiece. It's probably the craziest, funniest, goriest movie of all times. And it seems it was not well received and underrated, and even today it might be not that easy for everybody to watch it, despite the fact horror movies are now, in my opinion, way more violent and shocking than Braindead. So here it is, Braindead by Peter Jackson, 1992, a New Zealand picture. Here is the plot. We are in the 50s, and there is an aggressive, ominous Sumatran rat monkey that has been transported on New Zealand territory, and it is to be put on a zoo. But the bite of this creature will quickly transform people into zombies. A woman named Vera Cosgrove is a bad-tempered, castrating lady, and she won't let his son Lionel date women so she can keep him for herself. And so the old lady will be the first victim and will ravage the city, turning everybody into flesh-eating zombies. All this with a romance story between the son Lionel and a Spanish girl named Paquita. Considered as the goriest movie ever, it's impossible for you not having seen that one, if you love horror movies and fantasy movies. But it's more than that, which I'm going to develop now. So the opening scene forecasts the general tone of the movie: straightforward, gory, comical, burlesque. We got less than 4 minutes to set the tone of the general movie, and a quick change from horror to comedy. We here have a glimpse also of the white man against the savages. On Sumatra Island, a zoo official wants to bring back the rat monkey, but he soon has to use violence with the gun to reach his goal. Here, Jackson seems to deal with the interracial relationships in a quick way, showing white symbols of the civilized man, so-called, such as the permit, which doesn't mean anything for the natives, and the gun. It's obvious that in the same way, the white man is exploitative to the black people and have come to help him find the rat monkey, and doesn't even mind abandoning one of them when the car starts. Well, I think it's still the best gore movie nowadays, because not only it is filled with gross scenes made acceptable through the juxtaposition of humor, but also with a variety of filthy bloodbath and carnage. It's a totally visual picture with many different imaginative eviscerations. Concerning the characters, they may look simple, but I think they are very original in their depictions. First, we have Lionel, the hero, at once portrayed as a pretty awkward, foolish character, spilling apples, or pens as we first see him in the store. He is overly shy, not comfortable, and clearly depicted as a virgin, completely submissive to his mother. Then you have his future love, named Paquita. She's a Spanish immigrant looking for Prince Charming. She seems to live with her grandparents and work at their convenience store. The grandmother embodies the gypsy beliefs, and she influences Paquita, whereas the grandfather looks like, as we call in French, looks like a boff, plain dirty, and gulping down food. Paquita initially looks like a go-ahead woman. She longs for seducing her co-worker, Roger, when he comes to the shop, and when delivering, later you see her delivering, she doesn't need no man, no help, and she many times expresses the ascendant she has over Lionel. For instance, she will be the one who invites him for a first date at the zoo. Another main character is Mrs. Cosgrove. She first appears as a straight-standing, sophisticated, firm grey-haired widow. She holds a big kitchen knife, by the way looking like Michael Myers' knife, and she immediately shows her repressive, castrating personality to her son. When she peeps through the window, seeing her son talking to another woman, she crushes with her foot yellow narcissus before breaking her deceased husband jardiniere. Many symbols and connections in these. She clearly rejects Paquita's help. And this relationship of mother-daughter-in-law is for Jackson, I read, a reference to Woody Allen's pictures. We also have another one who is very funny, Uncle Les. A fat uncle with a rockabilly look, greedy yet probably the most hilarious character, with urinary issues, and he will get numerous hits in the balls. He turns out a tremendous aggressive zombie slaughterer, offering us multiple original mutilations and gory scenes. While there are other secondary original characters like a nurse, a black leather jacket bad boy, a kickboxing priest, a baby zombie, and some other crazy ones. Lionel is a young man in his late 20s, portrayed as a little boy obeying to his mother, unable to face her and take actions as a man. He is depicted like a naive, simple, ingenious virgin, afraid of speaking to women. His only love for now is his mother. With the broom in his hand, he reminds us of some kind of Cinderella or maid, slave to his authoritative mother. So the Oedipus Complex is also shown by the remorse Lionel feels when thinking of his father's death. He describes himself as the author of his dad's death. The imprisonment he feels is graphically represented when he tells about his shock at the zoo. He stands behind the cage bars, symbolizing how locked in regret he is. And roles are reversed too. Paquita climbs up to Lionel's room and brings him back his jacket. She will even offer him a red rose. It's a kind of reversed Romeo and Juliet balcony scene. And later, while having their first sexual intercourse, the mother will be taking part in the scene. She will actually be the one who, after a climax, ejaculate instead of her son, in a gross sprout of bloody blood on the father's picture. Well, another recurrent allusion to Freudian issues is the repeated nightmare of drowning. It's only when Paquita urges him to rid of the zombies in the cellar, especially his mother, that Lionel seems to reach a turning point, making decisions, and hence start growing and free himself from his mother's influence. In the end, a symbolical return in her mother's womb illustrates clearly the Oedipus Complex, but he will eventually eviscerate his mother and get out from her womb. The movie has a lot to do with the theme, the idea of passage. It's not only a silly romance taking place during zombie invasions. It's about the passage, the way, a path to manhood or manliness. It deals a lot with some primitive trial, like the ordeal by fire. Lionel is a young man who has repressed his sexual feelings, which would enable him to become a real man. The first step of this path to manliness occurs when he and Paquita date at the zoo, a place where animality fully expresses itself, and graphically too. And there is no wonder that's where they first make contact. She puts her hand on his back and he smiles, and he looks at her hand, like an inexperienced teenager discovering physical sensations. There's a scene that tackles fatherhood and how to take care of a kid is also it's also present in the movie, with the walk in the park, with the baby zombie scene. Lionel tries his best, imitating another mother, but eventually ends up being outrageously and hilariously violent to the baby, performing a real duel to be respected. It's also about the learning of authority here, fatherhood. And the final scene shows Lionel getting rid of the talisman, proving he no longer needs it, as he can fight on his own. All this is linked to the idea of the teenager fantasies and geek aspects, because Lionel is depicted as a teenager who is fascinated by the gory stuff he witnesses all along the movie. He himself found love through magic, gets seduced instead of doing so, and is protected by a gypsy talisman. This evokes role plays. And interestingly, the virus gives superpowers to the zombies who get bitten. Well, if you watch this movie but you don't smile, you don't laugh at some point, you might have an issue, because it's filled with gags and references of Peter Jackson's humor. For example, when the mother slips on a banana skin, right? The mixing of gore and humor. When Lionel sticks his mother's cheek with glue. When we have a Nazi doctor, crazy ideas like this. We have an epic scene when the priest is practicing kickboxing to kick the zombies' asses. And this should alone belong to the most comical scene from the art of movies. We have a walk in the park with the baby zombie. We have a crazy zombie lunch scene with we have one scene where a zombie is being stopped by making him drink Jack Daniels. We have the uncle who kicked the zombies' asses with the garden gnome. Completely crazy. We have Lionel being attacked by an asshole, literally speaking. The bold, shock, comical repetition. Queen Elizabeth II portrait being turned so blood can't splash on it. Well, the list is very, very long. I really want to mention the great score from Peter Dasent. An electronic composition with nice piano parts with a Spanish-inspired theme standing for Paquita and Lionel's love. You will recognize the funny parts of the movie through the score. So I think it's pretty good. The walk in the park. It's a real hilarious situation deprived of bloody depiction, yet probably my favorite scene. Lionel goes walking a baby zombie in a baby carriage, and this will turn into a real obstacle course to the crazy matching theme on the piano and violin. The orchestration here, sound and image, is just perfect. So extreme, humorous, crafty, super gory, gross, somehow bad for people who can stand trashy movies. You're gonna need a strong stomach to watch it. And yet it's very clever, meticulous, and subtly scripted. Jackson claimed it was his own tribute to Sam Raimi, with the stop-motion creature, for example, or George Romero's zombie movies, but also to Buster Keaton's slapstick and Monty Python. Of course, it's all about gory scenes, but one can discern the elaborate underlying components of the story, such as tales' outlooks through the frailty of childhood, the mystery of sexuality, magic expressed through the gypsy beliefs, as I said, and the talisman, The will to power, the duty of courage, obstacles and threats, and a happy ending. All these appear through many symbols in the movie. You can also notice the recurrence of the bright red color in the whole movie. I really was fascinated by the gory aspects and special effects when I was younger, but now I have grown more aware of other brilliant aspects of Braindead. It's a simple plot relying on the frenzied rhythm of the scenario, the awesome, elaborate, coherent gag scenes that link together, the scarcity of speech, the criticism of social standards, the painful steps of life, the depiction of church, family, adultery, death and mourning, greed and profit, embodied by Uncle Les, the psychological connotations. Even if it takes place in the 50s, it remains timeless and offers a dualistic perspective of life. By the way, you got the good and bad all along the movie. With the benefit of hindsight, I would say it's obvious Braindead has a very shocking and disgusting scenes, but not every director would have been able to shoot and show this kind of gross stuff with humor and big skills, and it's a rare gift. I doubt those directors could have made a movie with shocking gory scene with the same distanciation Peter Jackson and his crew achieved. I mean, with humor. So that's it. Watch it again and spot or dare discover it. And to quote Lionel,
"Party's over.